You now tuned in to the Gumptown Podcast. I'm your boy Doug B. We ain't got nothing to talk about, but we got something to talk about. Let's go. Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 84. I'm your boy Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving this podcast a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of Trap Gospel Fitness. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by her story. Let's chop it up with Kim West. Kim, how's it going?
It's going good. How you doing?
Glad to hear that. All is well on my end, too. First things first. Yes, ma'am. First things first. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, here to talk about Trap Gospel Fitness. But before we go there, let's get to know the woman behind the brand. What's your story?
So my story, my name is Kim West. I'm a mother of one, born and raised in Wiesbaden, Germany. I was over there for 14 years. We moved to Bay Minette, Alabama in 97, which is my mother's hometown. She was born and raised there. I completed high school there at Baldwin County High School. And fast forward, as I became an adult, I moved away, moved to Montgomery in 2009. And we're going to fast forward some more. So 2016, how all this began, I became an Zumba instructor, 2016. And I've been dancing, since I was younger. Ballet, I was in ballet, I was in talent shows. So I just been dancing since I was young. And so as an adult, when I became a Zumba instructor, I started teaching classes. And at this time, I was working. I was a phlebotomist, and I was a phlebotomist for 5 years. 2017, I resigned from my job, and I just took a leap of faith. Started teaching classes in multiple areas in Montgomery. 2018, I started training, became a personal trainer. And then in 2019, I added body sculpting to my services. So not only are you getting in shape, but we're also targeting, certain areas on your body that may be a problem area. And so putting those two together basically gets you to your goal even faster. So I'm gonna fast forward a little more. 2000 and before I fast forward, my business is called Impressive Body Spa and Fitness. And so now we're gonna fast forward. Fast forward to 2021. I was in a car accident. Me and my son was in a car accident. We got hit by a drunk driver. A lot of people really don't know because I didn't post it or put it on Facebook or Instagram or anything. So not a lot of people know about it. But me and my son was in a car accident. The car was totaled, and thank God we are still alive. And so going into the new year, and this was right before the weekend before Thanksgiving. And going into the new year, I'm down. Went through physical therapy, had to go to a chiropractor, and mentally it was a struggle. It was a struggle mentally. And so in May of 2022, and it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's funny, but, sometimes God allows things to happen to you to get your attention, because sometimes we can be so caught up on what we're doing that we're missing what God is really wanting us to focus on. And so in May, I was just sitting in my living room. And so I just trap dropped in my spirit, right? And so I'm saying like, and it's kind of funny. And I'm saying like, Lord, I don't know nothing about the trap. I ain't been there. I don't know how to get there, you know? And so it was funny, because that's what I was thinking. And so then, you know, he gave me like an abbreviation. And so trap means touching random afflicted people. So afflictions is anything that affects the body, whether it's depression, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, unforgiveness, hurt, anxiety. All these things affect the body, and so that's where affliction came in at. And then, when he gave me that, I was like, wow, like that's deep, like that's really deep. And so when it came down to dealing or working with the youth, I actually started working with the youth in like 2017. I actually partnered with a good friend of mine, Terrence Baldwin, who is the CEO and founder of Meow Academy, Music Education on Wheels. Shout out to Terrence. And so that's when I started working with the youth, and I was working with them since then. So it's, God put people in your life, and you really don't even realize it until you're where you need to be. And then you look back and say, okay, so God was preparing me to work with a group of individuals and a certain age group, And so once I got the abbreviation, and I worked on the logo and everything, and so I was like, okay, well, what do I do? What do I do now? Like, how do I get it out there? So, I started contacting the schools, and a lot of them messaged me back. They got back with me, and so I've been to 11 or 12 schools since last September. I'm gonna say last September 2022. Since last September, I've been to 11 or 12 schools already. Mm. And I get so happy. Like when I do it, it's just a fullness. It's a fullness because these kids they're lacking love, like real, true, like genuine love. That's what a lot of them lack. And, with everything going on, like is more kids these days, is more of them leaving than the older ones. And so it just breaks my heart when I hear that a child took their life, or, even adults too, but mostly, the kids, taking their life, at 13, 12, like at that age, you really don't even know who you are. Like you trying to, right, get a feel of who you are, and it's like, when we were growing up, it was, we didn't think, our households, or how we thought, the thinking process wasn't like that. We weren't thinking nothing but what, school, going outside to play, because most of us stayed outside playing anyway, had to be in before the lights come on. But we wasn't, the kids these days are set up differently, and it's gonna take a lot of love to draw a lot of them. So I just get happy, like it just I do. I get so excited, like I get chills, like every time I do it. And so, dance, that is my ministry. Dance. And not only are we dancing, but I talk with the youth. We do meditation. When I go visit them, like it's just a lot, and I just love it.
Yes,
I love
ma'am.
it.
Yes, ma'am. And I appreciate your story, and I appreciate everything you shared. You've unpacked a lot in these first few minutes, and I appreciate that. I want to back all the way up to
Bag up. Let's go. Let's
yes,
go.
ma'am. No worries. So in terms, I know you say you were born and raised in Germany up until the time you were 14, and you moved to the States. So what were some of those cultural shocks you experienced coming from Germany over here to the States?
Honey, the weather. Oh my God. Baby, when I got over here, I didn't want to come outside. I tried to stay in the house until the sun went down. Okay. Like in Germany, when it's spring, it's spring. It's nice, warm, windy weather. When it was summer, it was still a warm, windy weather. Honey came over here and I was like, what is going on? What is going on?
I can
But
imagine
that
coming
was
from
the
Germany.
main thing, just the weather. It was the weather.
Hmm.
It didn't snow here. When the winter came, I'm looking for snow. I didn't see not one drop of snow anywhere. I'm like, what is going on over here?
Mm.
You know what I
What?
mean?
Yes, ma'am. So, what was the community like in terms of Germany in comparison to when you got here in Alabama? Like, just the people. Like, what did you all have a good community of people over there around you all?
We did. We actually we lived we lived on and off base. But when we lived off base, we lived in a German community, and most of the German they spoke, English pretty good, so they understood what we were saying. But everybody was like really nice. We didn't have any problems. Um, we played together, and we also would visit, the German schools to see how they did things as far as like how they learn um, different activities, like how they, do different
Mhm.
things. But other than that, it was good. I didn't have any problems. We didn't have any problems.
That's awesome. You were able to make friends over there. Then you came over here and adapted. And you say you
Yes.
finished up? Yes, ma'am. You finished up high school at Baldwin County. What did you end up doing at the high school? Did you go to college or military? What did you
Well,
do after
well, after high school, Um, I was working. I was actually working when I was 17.
that? Mhm.
I was working when I was 17, but after I graduated, I didn't go to school right then. I didn't go off to college until I was 22. Yes, I went to college when I was 22, and
Mhm.
that was I went to Troy. I moved to Troy, and I went there for 2 years. I went there for 2 years before I moved to Montgomery,
So,
and
what
I
was that
finished
campus life experience at Troy? What was college life at Troy like?
college life. College life, it can be, to me personally, I
Mhm.
didn't really like the big school. Um, I went there, my brother, he actually left home before I did, but he was already up there. And so I had my son at the time, and at the time my son was 2, and I wanted to better myself for my child, which encouraged me to want to, do more and do better. And so since my brother was already living in Troy, and I had cousins that were there as well, that's why I chose to go to Troy. But the college life, I mean, it was okay. I didn't really like the big school. I'm more of a like a
Okay.
smaller like facility or organ. I'm more, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But
tracking. So you would say Troy University, it was a bit overwhelming for you just being there.
it was just
Mhm.
too much. It was too much. It was because I just don't like all of the. I just didn't. It was too much for me.
Yes, ma'am. No, I definitely understand. I definitely understand. So, yes, ma'am. So in
Mm-mm.
so in terms of your businesses, I know Trap Gospel Fitness is the main
Yes.
thing, is what we were talking about, but I know you
Uh-huh.
mentioned Impressive Body Spa and Fitness. Let's start there. Was that the first business you started?
Yes.
Okay. What
Yes,
products and
that's the first
services?
one.
So what
Trent.
inspired the name and what products and services do you offer?
Okay, so what inspired the name? So impressive. When you think impressive, you think impressive with an I, but this impressive is with an E. So you think Empress, Empres. Empress. When you think Empress, you think royalty, right? Sovereign, or like a queen, or somewhere in that area. But I
Mhm.
chose Empress because it just made me think of, royalty. And so we us men and women are royalty. So I wanted something that that everyone could like relate to.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
plus myself, because because I speak that we are our royalty,
Right,
and we should act and walk as if we are. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
that describes me and the people that I service. So the services that I offer is group and personal training,
Mhm.
and I also offer body sculpting services.
Okay, yep, yeah, yes, ma'am. Because I know you said in 2018, that's when you had the personal training to your
Right,
repertoire. In 2019, body sculpting.
right.
So let's talk about 2017 when you walked away from your job. What was that like? Where were you working, and were your coworkers supportive of you leaving and pursuing entrepreneurship?
So I was working out as a phlebotomist, which I loved doing that as well.
Mhm.
I love doing it. I was the best at that. Like I got all the hard sticks. Okay. But yeah, the doctors, they didn't want me to leave because I,
Mhm.
I worked at the doctor's office. They didn't want me to leave, but they were supportive. And it was it was exciting and scary at the same time because you don't know what to expect.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mm. I could
it
imagine.
was,
Like, I'm glad they were supportive of you and they didn't want you to leave because it sounds like you made a great impact while you were there. And that's
right,
really
right,
what you want to do. No matter where you go in life, you want to leave it better than you found it. So that's
right,
amazing that they supported
right,
you. And
right.
I can only imagine that full-time entrepreneurship life. I know it's exciting, but scary, like you just described.
It
So
is. It is. Mm-hmm.
that's great. That's amazing. So in terms of just, I know you said you've been into Zumba 2016. So fitness has always been a
Hmm.
part of your life. Like have you always just been big into fitness? That's been
Yeah, pretty much.
gotcha.
I was active even in school. I ran track, played basketball. So I stayed active. I stayed doing something. So, um, fitness has always been a part of my life.
Makes sense. Health is wealth. I'm all about it. I love it. Like staying on
Right,
top of our
right,
physical fitness and
right.
because really all this the stuff that plague our community, that the heart
Mm-hmm.
disease, the diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
it comes from a lack of awareness and not taking our
It
physical
does.
fitness serious. I know, well, I know in my family, and I know many others in our community, in our culture, we believe these diseases be hereditary, and I disagree. I think these diseases they pass down because we never change our habits. So
Right.
so
Yep.
fitness is definitely key. And I know you
Right.
said in
And it's a lot of
2021.
things.
Oh
It's
yes,
a
ma'am.
lot
Go
of
ahead.
things. There's a lot of things we have to unlearn, you
Hmm.
know, um, in order to do better and be better. Um,
Hmm.
and that's health wise, mentally, physically, mentally, spiritually. It's just a lot of things that were taught as you were raised, that you have to unlearn the unhealthy things
Right.
in order to be better in those areas. Hmm.
Right, for sure. Yes, ma'am. And just even in terms of that accident that you and your son went through, glad you all made it through that and how that inspired trap fitness, trap gospel fitness.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
amazing how, like you said, like God take us through things at times and
Right.
it be tests. It just be a test sometimes. Like it
Yep.
don't make sense when you're going through it. You be like, you almost, well, I speak for me. When you're going through things sometimes you be like, why? But then when it's
Right.
all over, you be like, I'm glad I went through that because it taught me.
Right. Right. Because what you go through is not for you, it's for
Mhm.
somebody else. It's
Yes,
for
ma'am.
somebody else. Yep.
And I commend you for turning your pain into purpose because easily you could have easily became you could easily became bitter because of that accident and
Right.
turned that negative. But the fact that you saw that accident as a way to basically turn your pain into purpose and that
Right.
inspired the name Trap and
Hmm.
and just the acronym that you came up with that inspired it. Like that's so amazing and that's dope. So let's just talk about what you got going on over there at Trap Gospel Fitness.
Okay, so right now, as of now, Trap Gospel Fitness, I haven't actually had a like public a class for the public. I haven't had a class yet. Now I'm just really traveling, going to different schools, um, as of right now, because
Okay.
that's my main goal as far, for Trap Gospel Fitness, traveling.
Hmm. Okay. So what's been the reception of Trap Gospel Fitness going into these schools? Have the kids been receptive? What has that experience been like?
The experience has been like overwhelming. It has, like, because the kids are, it's different, and like they want more, like they want me to come back. And so, and that's the whole purpose, is showing them that you can still you can still be you and have fun in Christ. Like you can still, and let me explain something. So the music that's played is all positive songs. It's gospel music, gospel rap artists. And then some songs, beats are changed to give it more of a upbeat. So everything is like, is something that you would basically, high energy. I'm just going to put that, high energy. And so the goal is to, get them to be themselves. It's okay to be yourselves, and it's okay to be different. Um, Basically being comfortable and confident in your own skin, and, just showing them like, look, y'all can have fun. You can still have fun, you know, listening to, rap gospel artists in Christ, because that's the goal, is to spread love, Christ love, that's the whole goal.
Yes, ma'am, and that's important that you playing that music because believe it or not, music is programming, and these kids they hearing all type of stuff on the radio these days. It's
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, I'm 35. I grew up in the 90s, and some of the music I heard like Uncle Luke and them, like
Right.
it was interesting, but like just access wise, these kids got way more access to that
Oh,
type of stuff
way more,
than I
honey.
had growing up, and it's great that you're coming into the schools, you're playing that type of music, which
Right.
the stuff they need to hear. And like I said,
Right.
it's and like you had touched on earlier, we're living in some interesting times, and kids are they're going through it mentally, and I think a
They're
lot of
going
it has
through it.
to do
Yes. Mm-hmm.
with the music, the social media
Right.
that they're constantly
Mm-hmm.
consuming.
Yep.
So the fact that you're coming in, you're giving them a break from that digital world, like you that
Right.
fitness thing. So I definitely commend you for finding that niche and going into the schools and helping those kids out because they need to get out of
Right.
those phones and they need to get
You're
on that.
right.
But that's dope.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am. So just in terms of let's go back to your very first trap gospel fitness event that you did. Can you recall where you were at and what were your feelings leading up to it?
Yes, the very first one I did was, I was at Lee High School. Lee High School. That was the very first one. And that was an experience. It was so fun. The kids had so much fun. A lot of them didn't know what to expect, but once they got into it, they didn't want to stop.
Nice.
um like some of the kids that weren't even in the class were coming in to try to see what was going on. So it was
It
it
was a
was
great
really it was
experience.
really fun. Yeah, it was really fun. And so once I did Lee High School, and then all the other kids from the other school heard about it, they was posting and saying, hey, come here, hey, come to Park Crossing, hey, come to Lanier, hey, come to Carver. So, I had to reach out to all these schools and get with, the principal or the activity coordinator, or, the athletic director, whoever I had to get in touch with to make sure that I got to those schools, and made it happen. They made it happen. So,
That's great. That's and that's
mhm.
that's what it's all about. And it's just so amazing that you're having an impact on the kids and the kids want to come out and do the fitness thing and take a break from, like I said, the digital reality. And I want I want to ask you this just in terms
Yeah.
of because I don't want to keep I don't want to open up any old wounds because I know that was a
Oh no,
traumatic
you're fine.
experience.
You're
But in
fine.
terms of, do you think had you not had that accident, that Trap Gospel Fitness would have been born?
I would say it would have been prolonged,
Mm, got it.
because that's something that, I was already teaching, you know, dance fitness classes. However, the concept changed. So if it wasn't for the accident, then the concept would have changed, but it would have taken longer, if that makes any sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. It would have taken longer. So
gotcha. That's amazing. And again, like just the things we go through, we don't know what they mean at the time, but we look back and we thankful that we went through them, because like you said, you don't go through your go through for you, it's for somebody else.
It's for somebody else. Yep.
Yes, ma'am. That's amazing. So you've already pretty much covered what I typically ask about. What sparks the idea to come up with businesses, to get out there and get started? How long does it take? And you pretty much covered all of that very well, and I appreciate that. So now we can fast forward into the vision portion. What are your short-term and long-term goals for each business?
So the short term is basically to introduce Trap Gospel Fitness to as many youth as possible. You know, I want to travel the world, you know, and the long-term goal is to eventually become a nonprofit organization, you know, partner up with different organizations. I know, you know, Steve Harvey has a foundation that provides like a community outreach and youth partnerships and programs, you know, so it's a lot of things that, you know, I've looked into, but that's my short-term and long-term goals.
Those are some great goals, and I have no doubt you'll make them all come to fruition.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So as we wrap up the oh, yes, ma'am, no doubt. You should be, because you're about to make a huge impact with Trap Gospel Fitness. Like, for real, like the kids really need this, and it's gonna be a great thing once you really get a chance to get out into the world, like you said, travel, touch more kids, reach more kids, because they need it.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. So as we wrap up the podcast, I want to ask $1 million question. I started this podcast to highlight the greatness connected with Montgomery, whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life. You've been in Montgomery since 2009. So I want to ask you, what do you appreciate the most about the Gump?
What I appreciate the most? Let me see. I appreciate the room of being this, or the space. I appreciate the space of being able to be creative.
Makes perfect sense. It's a huge pool of entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs in the Gump doing great things, and it's a huge community. And it sounds like just what you were saying earlier, working with T Baldwin, you've had a chance to tap in with that community,
right,
network, and build some great relationships.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. So how can people connect with you, Kim? What are your social media handles and websites?
Okay, I can be reached on Instagram at It's Me, Kim West. You can reach me on Instagram and TikTok at Trap Gospel Fitness. And you can also follow my business page on Facebook, Impressive Bodies, Spa and Fitness.
Yes, ma'am. And of course, I'll put all of the information in the description of the episode. Hey, Kim, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you again for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumptown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Go. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. Until next time.